Just in, 3 counts. The indictments have been handed down to Mr. Sean Diddy Combs. Doesn't look good. Well, we're going to get into it.
Ooh, you are listening to the Billy Flint Experience.
Thank you once again for joining me here at the Billy Flint Experience. I am your host, Billy Flint, and you're coming live here from Germany. As we started it off, yes, the indictments have been handed down. There's 3 counts. Racketeering conspiracy. I really don't know where to begin with this, but we're gonna play the press conference in a minute, but just wanted to actually just kind of I don't know. I mean, I guess I could say that we were all the world, all the content creators that were not spreading fake news, but some of the good content creators that I listen to from time to time. It's only maybe about 3, and it's Doggy Diamond, Star, and I forget the guy's name. But yeah, there's like 3 major people that I listen to that their information and their research is very concise. It's on point. And, I like to listen to what they present, but I didn't want to really come on here and talk about any of this until I had all my facts and all my information straight. So, being that the indictments were handed down today in New York, and again, it's racketeering conspiracy. I'm gonna get my notes here. It says presiding over, of course, Sean Diddy, and I'm gonna dub him Ol Dirty Diddy. So we got Sean Ol Dirty Diddy Combs presided over a sordid empire of sex crimes, coercing and abusing women for years while using blackmail and shocking acts of violence to keep his victims in line, according to an indictment unsealed today. It says prosecutors called the music mogul dangerous and urge his detention without bail, citing firearms found at his home and what they said were attempts to intimidate witnesses. Okay, we're gonna stop there, but we're gonna listen to the press conference because they go into great details on what the 3 counts entails. And again, this is very deep. This is not only is it deep, but it's very sad. It's very, very sad. But before I get into that, we're gonna listen to the press conference.
Today I'm announcing the unsealing of a 3-count indictment, charging Sean Combs with racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking, interstate transportation for prostitution. The indictment alleges that between at least 2008 and the present, Combs abused, threatened, and coerced victims to fulfill his sexual desires, protect his reputation, and conceal his conduct. As alleged in the indictment, to carry out this conduct, Sean Combs led and participated in a racketeering conspiracy that used the business empire he controlled to carry out criminal activity, including sex trafficking, forced labor, kidnapping, arson, bribery, and the obstruction of justice. Let me say a little bit more about the charges. The indictment alleges that Combs abused and exploited women and other people for years, and in a variety of ways. As alleged, Combs used force, threats of force, and coercion to cause victims to engage in extended sexual performances with male commercial sex workers, some of whom he transported or caused to be transported over state lines. Combs allegedly planned and controlled the sex performances, which he called freak-offs, and he often electronically recorded them. The freak-offs sometimes lasted days at a time, involved multiple commercial sex workers, and often involved a variety of narcotics, such as ketamine, ecstasy, and GHB, which Combs distributed to the victims to keep them obedient and compliant. As alleged, when Combs didn't get his way, he was violent, and he subjected victims to physical, emotional, and verbal abuse so that they would participate in the freak-offs, and that Combs hit, kicked, threw objects at, and dragged victims, at times by their hair. On one occasion in March of 2016, that conduct was captured on video and later reported in the media. Specifically, Combs kicked, dragged, and threw a vase at a victim in a Los Angeles hotel when the victim was attempting to flee. As alleged, these assaults often resulted in injuries to the victims, which took days or weeks to heal. In addition to the violence, the indictment alleges that Combs threatened and coerced victims to get them to participate in the freak-offs. He used the embarrassing and sensitive recordings he made of the freak-offs as collateral against the victims. And the indictment alleges that he maintained control over the victims in several ways, including by giving them drugs, by giving and threatening to take away financial support or housing, by promising them career opportunities, by monitoring their whereabouts, and even by dictating their physical appearance. Because of all of this, the indictment alleges that the victims did not believe they could refuse Combs without risking their security or facing more abuse. The indictment also alleges other acts of violence undertaken by Combs and others, including violence against witnesses to his abuse, kidnapping, and arson. The indictment alleges that on more than one occasion, Combs carried or brandished firearms to intimidate and threaten victims and witnesses. Now, Combs did not do this all on his own. As I mentioned, Combs has been charged with RICO conspiracy. He used his business and employees of that business and other close associates to get his way. Those individuals allegedly included high-ranking supervisors in the business, personal assistants, security staff, and household staff. The indictment alleges that those individuals facilitated the freak-offs. They booked the hotel rooms and stocked them with the supplies, including drugs, baby oil, personal lubricant, extra linens, and lighting. When the hotel rooms got damaged, they helped clean it up. They arranged for victims and commercial sex workers to travel for the freak-offs, and they delivered large quantities of cash to Combs to pay for the commercial sex workers. The indictment also alleges that they helped Combs cover up his crimes. During the March 2016 incident at the LA hotel that I mentioned earlier, a member of the hotel security staff intervened, and Combs attempted to bribe the staff member with a stack of cash to make sure that what happened was kept quiet. And as the indictment alleges, in late 2023, after public allegations were made about Combs' crimes, he and others pressured witnesses and victims to stay silent, including by making phone calls to witnesses and victims and giving them a false narrative of what they had experienced. And as alleged, Combs used others to help conceal his abuse by monitoring and preventing victims from leaving a location in order to hide their injuries, or by locating and contacting a victim who had attempted to flee. part of this investigation, in March of this year, special agents from HSI executed search warrants at Combs' residences in Miami and Los Angeles. They also executed a warrant for Combs' electronic devices. During those searches, agents seized evidence of the crimes charged in this indictment. They seized firearms and ammunition, including 3 defaced AR-15s and a large capacity drum magazine. They also seized evidence of the freak-offs, electronic devices that contain images and videos of the freak-offs with multiple victims. And they seized cases and cases of the kinds of personal lubricant and baby oil that Combs' staff allegedly used to stock hotel rooms for the freak-offs, more than 1,000 bottles altogether. Here are some of the items that we recovered during the searches. As you can see here, this is a drum magazine, large capacity, and it contains, I believe, 59 rounds. I mentioned as well that we recovered 3 AR-15s. This is a close-up shot of one of the AR-15s, and you can see right here, the serial number has been thoroughly defaced. Another picture of more ammunition and parts of 2 AR-15s right there. Now, I want to be clear about 2 things. First, this office is determined to investigate and prosecute anyone who engages in sex trafficking, no matter how powerful or wealthy or famous you may be. No one should doubt our commitment on that. A year ago, Sean Combs stood in Times Square and was handed a key to New York City. Today, he's been indicted and will face justice in the Southern District of New York. Second, we are not done. This investigation is ongoing, and I encourage anyone with information about this case to come forward and to do it quickly.
Wow. Okay, as you heard it. I don't know. I don't know. I did not know it was this in depth. As he said, cases and cases, cases and cases of baby oil and other lubricants. You see, that's why I'm personally going to call Sean Combs Ol Dirty Diddy, because that is beyond. That is beyond. And the thing is that they are actually connecting his personality and these crimes to R. Kelly. R. Kelly, out of all people.
Robert. 30 years of my career.
But the most thing that stuck out to me towards the end, and he says that this is going to be an ongoing case, and that the gentleman was saying that he encourages other people that know anything about what has been going on to step forward. I don't know, you can call it snitching or whatever, but step forward before these subpoenas start to be handed out. And you know, for 1 second, when all of the speculation and all of the gossip and all of the information alongside of what Cassie Ventura, before her lawsuit was available for the public reading, you know, after it was put out into the public, and it detailed what was going on inside these freak-offs, I stopped to think for myself, and I was like, you know, wow, Diddy is doing all of this by himself? He's setting up the lighting. He's setting up the cameras. He's recording. He's editing. I mean, it made it seem like as though he was doing all this by himself. And this is what I was picturing in my head. Him sitting, I don't know, behind a computer desk. And he's got cameras and he's directing. But no, it's not. He wasn't doing this by himself. He had a staff of people, from what the gentleman explained in this indictment, that it was a staff of people. Which means that if it is, a racketeering conspiracy, that means he was using this alongside his company, which is, what is it? Sean Combs Enterprise, or Combs Enterprise. So that means that anyone that has been involved in his enterprise and his businesses, his companies, and as he said, it's going to be ongoing. This is an ongoing investigation, which means that it might be years. Which means that we're all in for a ride, because there's a lot of people that's going to be pulled out from the darkness. And there's only two people, before I get to that, I had to think that all of his artists that was under his label, all of his artists that left and became religious and went to different paths of their lives, and for decades people were wondering, like, why were these people, why were they leaving the label and they run towards religion, or they become destitute, or just didn't hear about them anymore. And again, the way he explains it, that it's a staff of people, or there's many individuals involved in this, and there's only two people that comes to my mind, and that's Young Miami and Stevie J. Of course, Stevie J has been, siding with Diddy and saying that he hasn't seen any of this stuff, any of these allegations, and he stands next to Diddy, that Diddy is a solid individual. And of course, Young Miami, I don't know what to say about her. I mean, she pretty much told on herself many times on her own show. And I quote, she says that she likes to be urinated on. She called her own self a whore. I'm not saying that. She said this.
Like, I'm a whore. I'm really a whore. Like, I'm with a W. Like, I'm a whore.
She told on herself. And now that she's trying to distance herself from Diddy, I don't know how far she's going to run, because she was on the payroll for a time, getting $500,000. Of course, then he dropped it down to $250. But the point is, there's going to be other people that they're going to pull into this, because this racketeering conspiracy, or the RICO, that's something serious. I mean, it almost seems as though the way that they are explaining this, they're almost, Diddy almost seems like an Al Capone. I mean, really, when you think about what happened to Al Capone, and how he was indicted. Of course, he was indicted of tax evasion, but he was also hit with the RICO charge, and his businesses and everyone else connected to him So I don't know. This doesn't look really, really good for Diddy. And, I have to say that I feel saddened not only for the victims, not only for the women that suffered under his rule. I think first off, I don't know, these Scorpios are just dark spirited individuals. I have to say that. I'm sorry, I have to say that. That is some dark energy. And now that everything is slowly coming to light, this really paints Ol Dirty Diddy in a completely different light. And again, I feel sorry. I feel bad for the victims that had to experience this and the trauma that they went through. Not only that, but also the mental anguish. And then, of course, his kids. I mean, his daughters, his sons. I mean, for Christ's sakes, he just had a little baby. He just had a child. And they have to sit and, I don't know, see their father be taken down like this in such a very embarrassing, extremely embarrassing manner. That it's almost like just really embarrassing to even have the last name Combs. I mean, that's one thing that's really, really, really sad to me, is that the kids, his children, have to carry this for the rest of their lives, almost in the sense of shame. But I guess right now that justice is about to be sought. They're seeking justice, all his victims. And I don't know, this is gonna be a very interesting ride. This is gonna be a very, very interesting show. And as I said earlier today on my podcast earlier today, that I would even say that this is gonna be like one of the trials of the century. Because there's so many different levels. There's so many different things connected. It's not only essay allegation, drugs, prostitution, firearms, money laundering. I mean, it can go on and on and on, but it looks like this is going to be a situation where this is going to be carried on for years. Same thing with the what is it, Young Thug? Same thing with his trial. Because as you start peeling away the different layers, and of course Sean Combs is on another level when it comes to his businesses and his wealth. But now we all understand how he obtained all this wealth. I mean, blackmail. I mean, that's number one. And of course, I was interested. I've been interested for years to figure out how can one individual become so wealthy, starting out being a label head, going back to the 90s. And of course, we all remember what happened with the event that took place at the basketball game at the City College in New York back in the early 90s. Ooh. And ever since then, it's been like a trail of death and destruction in his wake. I mean, this Sean is like beyond dark force. He's beyond dark force. But thanks to Cassie and her lawsuit, thanks to her, she was the individual who brought it all to light. And even that was shocking. Of course, there's always been gossip about his infamous white parties. And there's been celebs throughout the decades that had, put out their little stories and about attending his parties or hanging out with him at different clubs. I mean, Exhibit, the first time Exhibit explained what he experienced with hanging out with Diddy at a club, at a nightclub. And there was another gentleman. What is his name? I think it goes by the name of, and this is his name. I'm not being racist or anything, but this is his name. I think it goes by the name of the Fat Jew. And he actually explained what he experienced at one of Diddy's parties and how he walked in different rooms and seen very peculiar activities taking place with men, and in other rooms with women. And of course, this was, over 10 years ago when I first heard this. I think it was on YouTube. And he was talking about one of Diddy's parties, and of course I was thinking that it was just a story that he was telling. I without any facts, without any, as they say today, without any receipts. You got to kind of take, this is just an antidote or just gossip or just a story to be funny. Because, when these stories were coming out, they were so beyond the scope of people who are not in the industry, people who are not in the know, or people who don't go to these type of events and after parties. Us average individuals, 9-to-5ers who get up and go to work and come home and raise their children and walk their pets, and this type of activity is beyond our scope of reality. So of course, when these stories were taking place, or these stories were being told throughout the decades, it was kind of hard to believe. Just kind of took it as gossip, or just something funny to listen to, or something, someone is just, again, just trying to be comical in their storytelling. But I don't know, as I said again, from what the gentleman has said at the press conference, this is going to be an ongoing investigation. So there's going to be a lot of individuals, I would guess, that will be subpoenaed, that will be forced to tell their part. And it's all also on TMZ. They also reported that Sean Diddy Combs, Ol Dirty Diddy, he says, it says from TMZ reported he wants out of his federal lockup really badly. He's proposed a $50 million package to secure his release on bail upon or until his trial begins. Diddy's team filed the offer with the federal court, and it's an impressive offer in terms of the assets he's willing to lay on the line. According to the docs, Diddy say his mansion on Miami's Star Island would be offered up as collateral. That's worth $48 million. And his mother's Miami house could cover the remaining $2 million, while he's gonna kick his mother out of her house. That's not funny, but that's not funny. That's really not funny, but it says right here, it says that his mother's home is worth $2 million, and that's going to cover the remaining costs of the $50 million package. Continues to say he's also willing to have his travel limited to Florida, New York, and New Jersey. Presumably, he would live in Miami and travel to New York area to face trial. Did he say he's willing to wear a GPS monitor, not the ankle monitor, GPS monitor, so the feds can track his whereabouts? They ain't got to worry about that. The feds are not worried about that at all. Continues to say, interestingly, did he say he's been prepping for the day he was arrested? And I guess that's where all of these videos have been surfacing over the past, 4 months, spotting him out in the public eye, kind of being very, very low key and laid back. Of course, I was looking at this and I was like, God, it doesn't seem like the loudmouth, braggadocious Diddy that we've all been used to over the decades. But he's been very laid back, very chilled, throwing up the peace signs. I'm surprised he hadn't let his hair just go gray, because he's been putting up a front. This guy is a serious narcissist. He's been putting up a front all this time. Still getting his manicures, his pedicures, his shaves and haircuts, hair dyes, beard dyes. But yeah, he's been out in the public's eye. He's been traveling around. He's been spotted. People taking selfies. People taking selfies as memorabilia. Because when he, I don't want to say when, because we all don't know how this trial is going to go. He may go away forever. Maybe he might only do 20 years, or maybe he might, be sentenced to 40 and then he's out within 15, 20 years. Who knows? But yeah, he's been out in the public's eye. And that was one of the first things that I was thinking, that he's out getting his last freedom, doing all the things that he should have been doing, like whitewater rafting. It's been video of him out somewhere, I guess in Montana, whitewater rafting with friends. He's been out with his twin daughters. Things that he should have been doing that us normal people do. So I guess you could say those were his bucket list, when he should have been, being a normal individual. But so I guess he was saying, what it's saying, that He knew all this was coming down, and it was coming down soon, and it was coming fast. So he better live out this summer like it will be the only summer he has. Again, it says that he's been prepping for this day. He was arrested because he paid off the remaining $18 million he owned on the Miami home, so he'd be able to offer it as collateral. Additionally, he says he informed the feds in May that he was trying to sell his private jet, and although he hasn't found a buyer yet, he promised to park it in Los Angeles while he remains in Florida. There you have it. And I guess, I don't know, I guess if, whoever buys his trinkets, his home, his cars, I guess it's a part of history. It's a part of their memorabilia collection. Who wants to own a piece of Diddy? A conversation piece that you can have with your friends, like 5-10 years from now. Like, hey, I bought Diddy's jet. He used to have his freak-offs on his jet. Ooh, smell this table. Smell the cushion. Okay, that's enough for me. Thank you so much for listening. Again, this is going to be very interesting as it unfolds for the public. And this makes great content for us content creators on YouTube. But as always, as I always promise that I'm not into conspiracy theories. I'm not into spreading misinformation and fake news. That I will always have a backup of, as they say, receipts. Because I don't want to be one of these individuals that's just here to just, spread misinformation. But we will see. I will stay on top of this. No Diddy. We'll stay on top of this news, and as it develops, I will bring it to you. Of course, offer up my opinion and my personal insight on this, because this is going to be a rough, interesting ride. But once again, thank you so much for joining me here at the Billy Flint Experience. I am your host, Billy Flint. You're coming here live in Germany at the Factory Studio. Look forward to being with you again soon. Have a wonderful evening.
Go on, you've got another 5 seconds. Say something outrageous.
You dirty bastard.
Go on, again.
You dirty fucker.
What a clever boy.
What a fucking rotter.
Well, that's it for tonight.